When I was in high school, my father began adding a project in our basement. He never really explained what it was, he only said it was completely for his business. But everything that happened in the basement had to be kept secret. He even soundproofed all the walls in the basement. Seeing how careful he was about keeping the basement secret, I didn't ask too many questions. Some of my schoolmates liked strange adult website videos on them were really shocking. They would spend time looking for these strange and bizarre videos. As for me, I didn't spend too much time online. Usually, I just searched for NFL or NBA highlights and social media sites. So whenever my friends talked about their strange interests, I usually refused. But one afternoon, while eating lunch, my best friend Kevin began describing what he called the dark web. He said it was a place you could only access with special software, and there you could find things that made all adult websites look plain and boring. There were hitman sites and videos. Everything described was disturbingly realistic and scary. I admit hearing this, my sparked terrorist that such a chaotic place really existed. Kevin invited us over for a weekend sleepover so he could show us what he was talking about. We agreed. A few days later, when Kevin started browsing the dark web, my friends and I found out he hadn't been exaggerating. The links we saw and thumbnails showed every horrifying thing he had described. While searching, he stumbled upon a random untitled link. This sparked his curiosity. What do you think? Should I check it? I didn't look. I didn't say. All said yes. Anything but my other friends. Kevin clicked the link, and we saw a digital clock with red numbers flashing, slowly counting down to 0. Obviously, he had found the clock was. After the countdown reached 0, we disappeared and could only see a black screen. The only sound was the sound of heavy breathing. This went on for a minute, about 30 seconds, then the flashlight beam of light, and we saw a very ugly mask. From the limited light, I could tell that the man was also wearing a top hat, a suit, and a cloak. He began to speak. His voice was badly distorted. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I have prepared a show for you, telling the story of a pair of helpless victims. The rest of the screen brightened up. We saw a small room with walls painted red. On the back wall, there were 2 naked women locked in handcuffs on the wall. One of them was very fat. The other was very beautiful. Hawkins slowly approached the fat woman. She was a ugly and disgusting woman. Monsters like you don't deserve to share the world with beautiful women. He glanced at the other woman. She was the most attractive one at the moment. But he said nothing, just stared at her in disgust. I'll deal with you later, but right now, we'll first deal with the ugly woman. From off-screen, a pair of hands handed Hawkins a pair of scissors. For some reason, this assistant didn't want to show their face. If only you were pretty. He opened the scissors and began cutting towards the woman. The second woman also began cry. In fear, Hawkins then pointed a chainsaw at her stomach. One of my friends fainted from shock. Another started vomiting. Hawkins turned off the chainsaw. Blood splattered everywhere. But as for you, he looked toward the whip and said, and the assistant handed him the whip. Hawkins cruelly whipped the woman many times, mercilessly. Just then, Tywin noticed that in the live stream, there was a message box. People were started typing all kinds of terrifying messages. All these messages expressed their joy at what they had seen. Kevin typed, "What on earth are you doing? The police will know." "Oh, a tough guy, Kevin. Are you going to call the police?" When we heard this crazy man mention my friend's name, we all gasped in shock. "I already have all the information about you. It seems I will soon be able to meet you." Then a second box appeared, showing his name and home address. "Now, excuse me. I have something to take care of first." Kevin immediately shut down the computer. The other friends all left, though I was also terrified, scared out of my wits, but I chose to stay with him. Fortunately, that night, nothing happened, but Kevin didn't sleep all night. A week passed, and everything was still fine. Things seemed to have finally calmed down, until one Friday night. I was watching the news when I heard a report about a large-scale murder case. It happened near where I lived. When I saw the reporter standing outside Kevin's house, which I recognized, I gasped in horror. Unable to breathe, his parents and siblings had been murdered. Kevin himself had gone missing. That night one woke up to go to the bathroom. When I stepped out of my bedroom, I saw my father coming up the stairs, his clothes covered in dirt. "Dad, it's 1 a.m. now. Why are you out fixing the sprinkler at this hour? Why not fix it? Is there any law that says I can't fix it?" Dad replied, in a strongly sarcastic tone. I sighed and went back to sleep. The next afternoon, my dad went out to run an errand. At that moment, I decided to be a naughty boy and check the basement. Looking back, really don't know why I chose to go there at that particular moment. I wanted to see what secrets were hidden down there. I went downstairs and turned on the light switch. So far, the basement looked just like it had the last time I was there. The next time I stepped in, there was nothing different. Then I noticed the staircase. There was a door behind it. My curiosity reached its peak. I opened the door and the lights came on automatically. The sight before my eyes sent shivers down my spine. It was a small room. The walls were painted red. Handcuffs hung on them. It looked exactly like the horrifying room I had seen in that terrifying live stream a few weeks ago. A chainsaw was covered in fresh blood, and a table with a computer on it and a webcam. Next to the computer was an ugly mask. At a glance, I recognized it. It was the one Hawkins wore. I heard my father shouting upstairs because he noticed the basement door wide open. He came down, cursing at me. And when he saw me standing at the entrance of his sacred room, holding the mask in my hand, he froze. His expression instantly shifted from anger to shock. We stood in an awkward silence. For a long time, I felt anger and betrayal. I walked up to him and punched him in the mouth. He was so shocked that he couldn't move, didn't even try to defend himself. Then I went upstairs. I called the police. Shortly after, my father was arrested. The reason he soundproofed the basement walls was to prevent anyone from hearing the screams. Also, my friend Kevin and the two women from the live stream were buried in the backyard. Their bodies were completely dismembered and stacked together. That explained why my father was always working late at night in the yard, and why he used the name Hawkins as his dark web identity. A man named Hawkins was buried in a nearby cemetery. He was murdered. In 1995, my father admitted he was the killer. The blood evidence collected at the scene perfectly matched. It's been 5 years. Since his conviction, I have never visited him in prison once. He will be executed in the coming years. Meanwhile, I can't help but wonder if the man who raised me somehow instilled those evil thoughts in me. I fear that one day I might break down and become a monster like him. I have never once gone to visit him in prison. He will be executed in the next few years. At the same time, I really wonder if the man who raised me somehow planted those evil thoughts. I am afraid into me that one day I will collapse and become a monster just like him.